quite a number have found the way. So welcome to this parallel session number 4 with the title Stories of Collaboration and Replication. And in this session, in the next hour, we really want to showcase the importance of collaboration for the successful implementation, but of course also replication in smart cities and communities projects. For that, we have invited a number of representatives from different generations of these kind of projects, also to see if there is maybe some intergenerational learning that can happen across projects, between projects, things that, of course, can help the projects maybe recently started or starting to learn from the ones that are already more experienced. We also, of course, want to encourage this kind of peer exchange with the session in order to drive successful implementation and replication in the projects and beyond, because we do think that there is a very, very strong merit in this collaboration and exchange. And of course, a forum like this one is supporting this very nicely, but we thought a dedicated session on that is very important. So as I said, we're going to have different parts of the program in this 1-hour session. We're going to start off with a sort of scene setter presentation that will give you a bit of a glimpse of a joint paper that 4 projects of the 2016 generation have written together, co-authored together, and will be published soon. So there are some lessons, but of course also some learnings that come out of that. Then we will dive into these learnings and lessons with representatives of the 4 projects, before moving on to 2 representatives of projects that have been concluded from a previous generation already. So are there things that they want to share? Are there things that they see in common with the ones that are running? And last but not least, we have also a relatively recently started project and a representative of that project to give us maybe some insights of where they can see some of the learnings happening and what they can take of the experience of previous projects. So that's the roadmap. Of course, we have in mind that there are opportunities and tools that can support this exchange and the replication, and we will also look at this at the final closing words. So going into the first part of the session, it is my honor to introduce you to Francisco Rodriguez from Tecnalia, who is representing one of the projects that have co-authored the joint paper. Francisco, would you care to just tell us a little bit about why this joint paper and what can we in principle expect from that? You're still muted, Francisco?
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, now it works. Yeah, thank you very much, Katerina, for your nice introduction, and also thank you everyone for attending this session. I hope that you will find it interesting. And yes, as Katerina just said, my presence here is to present the joint paper that we, the coordinators of the 4 smart cities lighthouse projects from the 2nd generation, the so-called lighthouse projects from starting in 2016, have written together. So I am the coordinator for the Smart City project, but also the coordinators from Sharing Cities, Replicate, and Smarter Together have collaborated in writing this paper. So this joint paper will be formally launched, to say so, in an upcoming event that will take place in Lyon and also online next month on the 1st and 2nd of July, but I think that that will be presented in more detail later in the session. And it will also be available through the 4 projects websites, and also both in the Marketplace website and the Scale website. So we really hope that you take the time to download and read the paper and probably enjoy and learn something from our joint experience. So to provide you with a bit of a context of why we are writing this paper and what are the contents of this paper, let me tell you about the Smart Cities Lighthouse projects, because these projects have been running in Europe for a number of years already. And currently we have 18 Smart Cities projects that are bringing together the experience in urban transformation from 128 European cities. That is a pool of experience that we think is very, very valuable for the rest of the European cities and also for the rest of the world in order to learn about the outcomes of our projects. And we think that sharing our experience is one, if not the most important of our task, of our duties within the projects. Of course, in these projects, we have gone through lots of demonstration implementations dealing with innovation technologies and implementation of different actions in domains of, for example, clean mobility and logistics. We have also been working in energy efficiency and renewable energy sources integration. We have been working in deployment of data platforms, in the smart use of urban data, and also in citizen engagement. Collectively, these 18 projects have been able to get more than 420 million euros from the European Commission. And this investment from the European Commission has been able to leverage more than 1 billion euros in investment overall from the cities. So it's a huge movement that has been happening in Europe during the last 8 years or so. And now, and we are continually evolving, as you can imagine. The first batch of projects just started in 2015, and they have finalized last year and early this year. And we, the second generation of projects, are coming to an end right now. And this is why we feel this is the right moment to try to put down on paper our main lessons learned and hopefully pass these lessons to the wider European ground and to all the cities that might be interested. So why write such a paper? Because together, collectively, we can be seen as prime examples of European cities taking on the climate challenge. Because we have been implementing innovative actions for energy transitions, and together we have this great pool of hands-on experience as a result. So what will you find in this paper? I haven't told not to give away too much, because at the end of the day, we want you to download and read the paper and learn all the details that we have been putting on it. But in brief, we are giving advice, specific advice relative to the main domains of action. As I told, we have been working on the build to stock and its energy consumption, in mobility, and decarbonization of the energy supply, the use of urban data. You will have specific advice on how to deal with these domains. So this is the, let's call it the low-level advice, or the very specific advice. And we cover in this also all the aspects related to transformation. We deal with technology, but we also deal on how to face the processes, how to tackle the organizational challenges involved in these processes. We talk about management, we talk about financing. So you can find this, but also you can find high-level advice and very specific recommendations on the keys to success. Because as you can imagine, we have found many common barriers, we have faced many common problems. Think about 128 cities dealing with the same issues. So many solutions have been tested, many work has been done in the cities, and we have been able to exchange as well. We have been collaborating from the beginning, and this is one of the keys of the session today. Why collaboration between these cities has led us to better solutions, to better implementations, and to overall improved learning. So you will find all of this in the paper. We really hope to have this available for you very, very soon, as I said, in the project website, in the Scale website, and also in the Marketplace website. Last but not least, this project can also be seen as an effort in a continuing series of efforts. As I told you, there was a first batch of projects, and we have representatives of some of these projects today in the session that finalized last year. They produced their own recommendations paper that was presented in Barcelona in 2019, just before the COVID pandemics and all the historical situation that we all are living in. But as I said, our paper right now can be also seen in light of those recommendations as a continuing effort. And we have learned from our predecessors, we have learned from the previous projects, and we also hope to be able to pass something to the next projects, to the newer lighthouse projects, and also to inspire them with this document. So that's it from my side, and let's continue with the rest of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francisco. And yes, this session is your way to already get a pre-glimpse of the paper that's going to come up. So we give you a bit of a teaser, but of course also already some of the insights during the discussions today. We are really honored that the 4 projects that have authored this paper are represented in the session today. So I would also like to invite Nathan Pierce from the City of London and representing the Sharing Cities project to turn on his camera and sound, as well as Maxim Valentine from Lyon, representing the Smarter Together project, and Elizabeth George from San Sebastian, representing Replicate. Francisco, who has already been talking to us, has introduced himself already, so thank you for that. And so I'm just waiting for Elizabeth, if she can turn on her camera and sound as well. We had some technical problems on her end earlier, so let's see if it works now. I think it does. There she is, wonderful. So there you are, the 4 of you. First of all, it would be nice if each of you could shortly introduce yourself, your city, of course, also shortly the project, if you like, and already answer me a first question, which is leaning on towards the title of the session. And I would like to know from you why collaboration across projects is so essential to the success also of a smart cities project such as yourselves. I would love to start with Nathan. Nathan, could you shortly introduce yourself and then tell me why collaboration is so important?
Sure, no problem. Can you hear me okay? Good. Hi, yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to talk here. My name's Nathan Pierce. I'm the head of the Smart London team at the Greater London Authority, where we lead on all things smart cities for the whole of the Greater London region, which is made up of 33 boroughs. And I'm the Programme Director of Sharing Cities, which is one of the 4 programmes that we're talking about today. Now, Sharing Cities is one of the larger projects in terms of the size of cities and the population that we cover. So the cities that are involved in Sharing Cities are London, Milan and Lisbon. So big cities, 2 of which are capital cities. And then our replicator cities, our fellow cities, are Burgas in Bulgaria, Bordeaux in France and Warsaw in Poland. So again, even our fellow cities are quite large cities, and one of them is a capital as well. We have 34 partners, which is similar to what all the other projects here have. And we have a key strategic focus on scaling up and mainstreaming. That's the main thing that we want to get out of Sharing Cities. How do we ensure that what we test in these projects actually continues beyond the end of our programs, and how do we use this program to leverage in further investment? And at this point in time, we have managed to hit a total of around about 270 million of additional investment off the back of the 24 million that was invested by the European Commission. And it's really about making that case for collaboration as well. So as you said, you know, how does this kind of relate to the case for collaborating between cities? And I think there's 2 things I'd like to say on that. The first thing is, when you're dealing with cities as big as London, Lisbon and Milan, we as individual cities need to do an awful lot of collaboration in order to get anything done in the first place. As I mentioned, London is made up of over 33 municipalities. Milan is a regional area, as is Lisbon as well. So there's quite a lot that we need to do in order to collaborate with pan-city authorities, national government, local groups, in order to deploy large-scale citywide solutions. So at a city level, collaboration is really important. And then collaboration between the projects as well has proven to be really, really useful to us, particularly in terms of learning about what works, sharing expertise, and also having a conversation about potentially collaborating on joint procurements as well, which is something that we've done over the last couple of years. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for that first insight. And I would love to move on to Maxime, also because you're representing, or you're from Lyon, which is also a big city. So wondering also in relation to what Nathan has said, first, of course, to introduce yourself and the project shortly, and then see if you have a similar look to collaboration, especially coming from a bigger city.
Hello, so I'm Maxim Valentine, very happy to be here with you. I am in charge of sustainable development and innovation for a company called Lyon Confluence, who is in charge of the development of a new area in Lyon, which is not as big as London for sure, but is a quite important city in France. And the purpose of this project is to double the city of Lyon. And I am also the coordinator of the project Smarter Together, with the city of Munich and the city of Vienna as lighthouse cities, which are quite important cities too. A capital for Vienna and a regional capital for the city of Munich. And we also have fellow cities, Sofia, Santiago di Compostela, and Venezia in Italy. This project is quite huge for us. For me, especially as a coordinator, and to lead a project such as Smarter Together is a quite unique experience. So, as Nathan said, it's very important to discuss, to work between the other cities, but it's also very important to discuss between other coordinators, just to know if we are doing the right things, to share the doubts we can have during the project, but also to share the impact we have with the project we are leading. And this joint paper and this collaboration between us is this is the purpose of this collaboration and the joint paper. As Francisco said, the European Commission gave us between all the project more than 100 million euros, which is very important. So we need to assess what we have done during those years for sure. And it's quite difficult to assess what we have done because it's quite complicated to evaluate the CO2 impact or energy impact because we don't have the same way to calculate things and we don't have the same references. So we need to find the proper way to assess our impact in the project, and we can do it discussing together in a cross collaboration, such as during this joint paper.
Yes, to find joint measurements and joint methods there. Okay, yeah, great. Thank you so much, Maxime, for that first introduction. And then moving to a project that deals with a little bit smaller cities or medium-sized cities. Elizabeth, could you introduce yourself shortly and, of course, the project that you're representing, and then tell us a bit from the perspective of your cities why cross-collaboration is so important?
Okay, hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now it's okay, because we have some problems. Okay, so I'm Elizabeth Jorge. I work for Fomento San Sebastián, is the municipal company in charge of the economic development of the city of Donostia San Sebastián, located in the Basque Country. So I work in the competitiveness and innovation department, and I'm coordinator of Replicate project. Replicate have as lighthouse cities size, medium-sized cities. We are not big cities such as London, Milan, Lyon, etc. And the cities are San Sebastian in the Basque Country, Florence in Italy, and Bristol in UK. And then as fellow cities, we also have Lausanne in Switzerland, Nilufer, Turkey, and Essen in Germany. So regarding the collaboration, okay, that's true that we have different phases for the collaboration. We can't. We have spoken about collaboration on the partners of the projects. It's very important also to collaborate with other projects, and also very important that I think we have tried in the 4 projects to work with the fellow cities. I mean, we were 3 lighthouses implementing demos and pilot, but also we have other core fellow cities that were initially in another stage, in a different, lower, could we say, stage, but they have been involved in the project from the beginning, just to learn and also to contribute from other point of view in the projects. Regarding the collaboration among the 4 projects and with the rest of projects for the different goals, I think it's been very important because we have reached different demos. In some cases, they are similar, the same issue, but with different cities, with different problematics in the cities, different size of cities, but we can learn from each other. It's important also from my point of view just to try to collaborate with cities from different projects, but from the same country, such as Spain, UK, because we have dealing with some issues that are related with the regulations. And regulation in some cases depend of the countries, so it has been also very important for us, for example, to collaborate with Victoria from the Smart City and from other Spanish cities from other projects, as other partners from other countries have done the same, yes, for specific regulatory or measures from each country. But we think that we are yes, speaking about the smart cities communities inside the project, but also yes, we need to learn from other countries and from other cities just around Europe, and I would say and maybe out of Europe, just to try to establish the mechanism and to work further, for example, in replication that is dealing with collaboration with other cities.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and also for that insight on medium-sized cities. So last but not least, turning to Francisco again, you already heard him introduce a little bit of his background, but Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, then the project that you're coordinating, which is Smart and City, focuses on the smaller size cities. And I can imagine that their collaboration is a different story. But I think it's not less important. So could you maybe quickly enlighten us on your views on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. As you said, Smart and City is focused on, well, medium and small size cities. We have probably, well, we are the lighthouse cities in Smart and City are the Vitoria-Gasteiz, which is the capital of the Basque Country. So we are located in Basque Country, just as Elizabeth. We have also Tartu in Estonia, and we have Sonderborg in Denmark, which is maybe the smallest, or if not one of the smaller cities in the whole lighthouse environment, because Sonderborg has 26,000 inhabitants. So a very small city, and of course, as you mentioned, working with this scale of cities is a completely different story than working in cities such as London and Milan, big capitals with lots of resources and capacities. So this is one of the main differences. And of course, I have to underline everything my colleague said, but we also have to take into account a different level of collaboration, which is the collaboration between smaller cities, which can provide them with the capacities and the resources that by themselves they would not be able to have. So we have seen this throughout the life of our project, and collaboration between Lighthouse and fellow cities is one thing or one interesting aspect of how we can trickle down our experience to smaller cities or maybe cities with less capacities or less resources. But I wanted to also introduce a new level of collaboration that many projects have been developing, which is network collaboration with cities outside of our projects. We have done this successfully in Smart City, for example. I'm aware that many other lighthouse projects have been working in city networks and so on, but we have focused in smaller cities and with a very successful approach in which we have been able to transfer our experience, show the lessons that we have learned to small and medium-sized cities throughout Europe in a very positive environment. So this level of collaboration needs to be addressed as well, because at the end of the day, we are a bit more than 100 cities. There are many more cities throughout Europe that haven't been able to access the resources and the expertise that we do have already. And transferring this to other cities is key in our perspective. So this level of collaboration needs to be taken into account as well.
Thank you so much, Francisco, and of course to the three others on this roundtable. I had the privilege of actually having a pre-read of the very interesting joint paper, also in order to prepare for the session. So I already know, of course, what's in there, but in principle, I think what would, of course, interest our audience is, other than one of the key learnings, I think size matters. In many different aspects, and not the least for how you should set up collaboration in how things should be moving. I'm wondering if you would like to share with the audience some other key learnings that you think are important in this, let's say, across the projects that also, of course, come out in the paper. And if you don't mind, I would do a slightly different order and have here ladies first. So Elizabeth, is there a key learning where you thought, maybe that even surprised you, or that you thought, oh, I didn't know that it was that essential, or something that you would like to share with the audience? You're still muted, Elizabeth. Just you need to unmute. Yes.
Sorry, I was starting. Yes, I was thinking about the technological and organizational issues. I mean, when we started the project, we already know that this is not only technology, it's an organization matter as well. But during the life of the project, we were highlighting this title. I mean, we have to take into account that above all is an organizational issue. And despite of all, inside the cities, we are working a lot of time in different silos. So it's very important to collaborate this time, just inside the city, just to work together and to change in some way the ways of working inside the public administrations. I mean, in our case, and it's a question of time. I mean, you need to spend time. It's not an issue of 2 months, 1 year, 2 years. It's a hard work that you need a lot of time to do. And in our case, for example, we were working with Florence and Bristol in another project that has been last for 2 years, just working in planning the strategy of smart cities and just working inside our cities. Because you need to change all the organizational issues. It's very difficult. Just to give you an example, for example, when we are speaking, for example, about the smart city platform, the first comes into our minds is the technological aspect. It's very technical aspect, the smart city platform, but behind that, you need the people in the organization, in the local administrations. You need the profiles, and you need people organizing data. Without the people, without the management inside the city, you can have the technology, the smart city platform, but it's not going to work or to give you the right service. So I think it's one of the very important points. And okay, this is also together. We can also speak to also about the business models. We need economic business models, just to deal with implementations. I mean, and to work with the companies, because you will look for the sustainability, for the future sustainability, and in that sense, we need just economic business models just to support all the implementations, and in order to make them replicable.
Thank you, Elizabeth, also for pointing already to some of the learnings that do come back. I recall them from the paper, so thank you for giving us that glimpse already. Maxime, how about you? Were there some learnings where you thought, oh, interesting and nice that we can put this on paper, because I think this is going to help quite a number of others to not maybe go into the same direction or learn from us and do it better.
Or maybe follow a direction that we think is quite interesting to achieve our goal. We opened this joint paper with a citation of Keynes, the economist. The citation is: "The difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as escaping from the old ones." And what Elizabeth just said is really linked. We need to really change our mind and the way we are doing. In fact, The lesson learned that we can get from this collaboration is less in the figures and the technical goal we reach, but more on the process we achieve to implement our project. And if we want to follow our way through neutral cities, because at the end of the day, probably in 10 or 15 years, we all would like to have neutral carbon cities. We need really to change the way that we implement projects. And what we learned from this project is that Victoria Geist and Lyon found out the same technique as they use in-house cities, in-house companies to develop their project. And I really think that is probably one of the keys to implement quick and impactful projects. You know, we need to be in the borderline between public and private companies. We need to be quick, we need to be really efficient. And for important questions such as eco-refurbishment, which are very complex with a lot of stakeholders and so on, we really need to have dedicated companies. And probably my recommendation would be to develop this kind of in-house companies.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maxime. And then turning to Nathan, as being also one of the contributors to the joint paper, has there been something in the process where you thought, that's surprising and that's a lesson we should certainly share with others?
Well, I think I would agree with a lot of what the others said. I think one thing that we've all learned is that, sure, we had technical problems developing some of the technology that we wanted to implement, and you had to work your way around them. The biggest problems that most of us faced were problems with people and bureaucracies and administration. So things would often become a challenge when there was an election involved or when there was procurement involved. And these are fairly standard challenges that we've all faced for a long time. These aren't particular to smart cities or particular to innovation. But that aside, I think one of the things that really hit me as both the kind of coordinator, but also when we come to write up our learnings in this paper, has been the power and potential and success of a partnership approach to developing smart city programs, smart city projects. So I think we've all had experience of doing small scale partnerships, you know, 1 or 2 private companies plus the local authority. But these programs involved 30 plus partners, involved lots of academic partners. We're not necessarily used to working with them in the way that we worked with them in the Sharing Cities program. And the result of this has been, when you have academic partners providing that academic rigor, the public sector partners involved giving advice right from the very beginning, and they're the ones who are involved in actually deploying the solution. And then you have the companies involved in the design right from the very beginning, in my opinion, has led to much better solutions being designed, deployed in our cities. And the ones that were designed through a partnership approach have actually had better longevity than other solutions. So where we've had a proper partnership approach to deploying something, for example, in London, those solutions are going to last beyond the end of the Sharing Cities program. So the viability of a partnership approach is something that I think I was a bit surprised at how successful it was.
Thank you so much, Nathan. In order to allow also the let's say the other generations of projects to comment, I would like to ask you for one final round. I ask for a short answer from each of you, but is there any word of advice that you would give to projects just starting or being in the middle of implementation, but that have certainly started after your project is done? So one word of advice, and I would love to start with Francisco this time.
Yes, well, I would like to take on Nathan's words. What he has described is a very complex organizational scenario where solutions are developed between a lot of different stakeholders. So taking it to a lighter tone, I think what is very important here is to adhere to the KISS principle, and KISS goes for keep it simple, stupid. So at the end of the day, it means that sometimes with so many stakeholders involved, with so much participation going on, and so many voices trying to provide solutions and have a say in how things are designed, how things are developed. I think it is very, and especially when we work in innovation, because at the end of the day, we are trying to work on innovative solutions, which is doing things differently than what they have been done before. In this scenario, I think not to overcomplicate things is essential. So that would be my main advice to new projects. Sometimes lots, in our experience at least, and I'm sure that the rest of the coordinators can share this, lots of time is lost in trying to overcomplicate things and trying to solve all the problems, solve all the questions. A very intelligent architect a long time ago said, problem solving is about choosing which problems you want to solve, not trying to solve everything. So picking the problems that you want to solve, keeping it simple, and not overcomplicating things. At the end of the day, it's much more.
Great, thank you, Francisco, for that word of advice. Elizabeth, any short word of advice to new coming projects or ones that are, of course, still running?
Okay, yes, to say one word, I would say stakeholders. You need the involvement of the stakeholders from the beginning. All kind of stakeholders, you need the municipality departments, the big companies, the small companies, the startups, that is a big opportunity for them just to develop the products and there to just to put in the market. The academic knowledge, all, I think we need the knowledge from all the stakeholders just to work on the smart city, and of course also the citizens. We need a public-private partnership, but involving the citizens also from the beginning of the project. As in the way is we have the stakeholders involved from the beginning of the project, then the implementations will be easier because we need them. So just to take into account them and just to collaborate just from the very, very beginning. It will be my advice.
Very good. No, thank you very much. A very important piece of advice there. And I saw Maxime nodding, but what's the word of advice that you would add to what you already heard?
Yes, I'm totally in line with what just has been said, for sure. The communication between partners, between cities is very important, and I hope that the new organization that exists now, I mean the board of coordinator and what we are trying to do with the scale project, will be helpful for the newcomers. But I would probably give you another citation, this time from a French writer coming from Lyon. It's the following: they didn't know it was impossible to do, so they did it. So I think that this is the advice I would give to the newcomers.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for bringing that philosophical angle into the conversation. Thank you so much, Maxime. And then last but not least, Nathan, any word of advice from you to the newcomers?
I would, again, agree with what everybody has just said, but I would also add to this that you've really got to think as early as possible about how you're going to mainstream the successful technology that you've tested. It is never too early to start thinking about your exit strategy and how the projects that you're working on are going to benefit the wider city once your funding has finished. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think actually there's a lot of thinking already that needs to go on very early in the project. So get starting with that thinking. I think that's the common advice there. I want to thank the four of you. So hearing from your generation of projects and also thanking you for sharing your insights, which can of course be found in the joint paper that is going to be published very, very soon. And now I would like to hear from two representatives of projects that have ended. So it's the 2015 generation. So thank you, Francisco, Nathan, Maxime, and Elizabeth. You can turn off your camera and sound now. And I would like to ask Lisa Anderson and Trinidad Fernandez to turn on their cameras and sound so we can see them. Yes, there they are, Trinidad and Lisa, very much. Thank you so much for joining us. You've, of course, been listening attentively, and you also had the privilege to look at the paper beforehand. So you get a little bit of an insight what these four projects have come up with. You, in your time, have also jointly published a joint paper. So the first question I have towards you, obviously to introduce yourself shortly and the project that you were working on in the 2015 generation. Do you share any of the insights that you've just heard of and that were presented by the four projects? Lisa, how about you first?
Yeah, my name is Lisa Enarsson, and I work in the city of Stockholm. And we were coordinating the Grow Smarter project with the Stockholm, Cologne, and Barcelona, and our follower cities as well. And yes, I agree very much with what they have said in the previous session, but also I've also got a glimpse of the paper. And I agree very much with what's said in that paper as well. What was mentioned here before about the collaboration, I think I want to strengthen the good thing about collaborating between these different lighthouse projects, because I think we become a very strong force when we are collaborating, and I think this collaboration also matters, because it's difficult when each city comes to the EU and says we need this and we need this, but when we do it as a group, then it's more effects. It gives more impact. I actually think that this initiative now with 100 climate neutral cities by 2030 is inspired by our collaboration.
Very good. So that's a lasting impact, I would say, if you manage to get that much of an ambitious goal to be formulated. Thank you so much, Lisa, for that first reaction. Trinidad, could you shortly introduce yourself and then maybe also give a bit of a reaction of what you heard earlier from the four projects?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Katarina. So for the one that doesn't know me, my name is Trinidad Fernandez. I work for Fraunhofer Institute for Industrial Engineering, and we were coordinating the Triangulum project as Lisa, one of the first SCC1 Smart Cities and Community projects, with the lighthouse cities of Manchester, Eindhoven, and Stavanger, and the follower cities of Prague, Sabadell, and Leipzig. And well, I definitely agree, and I really share the visions that the other projects and well, what we could see in the paper so far that was shared with us from the second generation. And as Lisa was saying, also for us as the Forerunner project, it was, I remember by then in 2015, also with our colleague Damian, that we were discussing about collaborating between projects, and we feel really proud to see how this collaboration grew and grew, and now to see like that there is even a secretariat established for it. It's something that, of course, it shows the power of collaboration and the need that we identified only by meeting the three coordinators back then in 2015. And about the experience that were shared by the fellows coordinators, I would like to emphasize a bit more about what Elizabeth from Replicate was saying about the organizational issues. And that is something, for example, that we experience within the Triangulum project of one really interesting and crucial aspect to have in consideration, because when we write the project and we start running it, we realize that, of course, one thing is about the replication technology. However, in our experience, we also realized that it's way more than that, and that all these organizational changes that are needed to create this arena in order to make this project possible, or this deployment of technology possible. It's a legacy that remains in the city, and that will help cities to grow and to go through that path of urban sustainability development. That happens, for instance, a really concrete example in our case with Leipzig, for example, that they restructured their organization within the city administration. And now, for example, Leipzig is also a lighthouse city within another project, SCC1 project. So yeah, that's really great to see from our side.
Thank you so much, Trinidad, and also thank you for sharing that very practical example from your experience. Lisa, you formulated recommendations at the end of your project, obviously together with the two other projects. Now a year has passed. What's your reflection since then? Do you think differently about certain things, or is it the same kind of thinking?
No, I also compared the paper that these 4 projects has written, and we agree with what they have been saying. But that paper is more about how to organize it, and it's more recommendations for the cities. And well, we agree that refurbishment is a key, of course, to reach the goals about being fossil fuel free and mobility solutions and all those parts. But in our paper, we were also emphasizing more, I think, the political part, that the political decisions are really important, and that we also need regulations to reach the goals, and that the regulations should support and not constrain what we're trying to do. And I think that we need regulations and political decisions to make it happen quicker. It is possible to do the transformation just to make people want to change, and the willingness from companies and the citizens and so on. But I think we need to go faster than that, because that takes very much time. We need national taxes, national build codes, low emission zones, congestion charges. We need national strategies on how the infrastructure of e-mobility should be done. We actually have now this proposal in Sweden that we should forbid fossil fuels by 2030. And I think that kind of bold political decisions are really needed if we should reach the goal of being, well, for these 100 cities to be climate neutral already at 2030, but for the rest of Europe until 2050. And for us, actually, to forbid fossil fuels by 2030 is a bit too late, because we are supposed to be fossil fuel free by 2040, and the cars will last longer than 10 years.
Usually they do, at least if it's a good car, absolutely. Maybe as a last round, and also turning to you, to Trinidad again, and I've asked this to the other projects, but is there any advice that you would like to give those that are just starting, or that they're in the early phases of implementation? Anything you thought, had somebody told this to me in the beginning, I would have done things differently?
Yeah, I think one big and important issue is also to have in consideration that things, well, it sounds a bit cliche, but that things not always work as you are planning. However, you can learn a lot from this, and even like whenever you think that this kind of that your plan is not working, maybe you will find a light at the end of the tunnel, and a solution, even a better solution, will come up. For instance, the case of Stavanger, for example, we had planned a specific solution that on geothermal to gather energy to heat a pool, a municipal pool. and some municipal buildings. However, we realized that it wasn't suitable for the area that was planned. And at the end, we started thinking, okay, well, how can we reach the same impact? And then we have a completely new solution on sewage tunnels that weren't used. And it turns out to be like even a better solution than the one that we were planning from the very beginning, and having the same impact. So we were really proud of it, and therefore my suggestion or advice will be, don't be afraid of not following the plans. Maybe another options, another ideas, another innovative ideas are there in the future for your project. And it's always also a lesson, a learning process. So yeah, be brave.
Going the straight way is not always the best way, right? So some detours are not necessarily a bad thing to do. Lisa, maybe a last point from you. Any advice that you would give?
I would add that I think already from the beginning, as also Nathan said, that plan for the exit. How are you going to upscale it? Because we see this as a big challenge now, because we didn't have a plan for our city. Our follower cities, they have plans, but the lighthouse cities, we didn't have the plans. So you need to have you need to be sure that to have a plan. You need to know to look at which of the solutions should be upscaled and which should not, which didn't work. Who should be responsible for that upscaling? Who has the mandate to take the decisions about it? And where does the finance come from? So you really need to have a plan for it, because otherwise it's taking too long time.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you so much, and also for that, and also to share that it's indeed not just the fellow cities that should have that, but also the lighthouse city ones. So, Thank you so much. Thanks to the two of you, and also for sharing your wealth of experience, because you've gone through the whole process, and now can look back at it and reflect on it. So I think it's a great source and a great inspiration, I think, for everybody that is still in the process of implementation or analyzing and looking at things. So thank you very much to the two of you. In our last short reaction, I would now like to invite João Formiga from Evora, who is representing the Positive project. So João, yes, there you are. Indeed, the camera is on, sound is on. Just before I get to you, you do see some comments in the chat. So if you want, and also the speakers want to react to some of the questions, we don't have really time to pick these questions up in orally, but certainly please, speakers, if you have a response to, or anybody else, to the points in the chat, then go ahead and answer there. João, your project has just recently started, so you're a real newcomer. And you've now listened to, let's say, and I know that it sounds always a bit disrespectful, but it's not meant in that way, to the old hands, so the experienced project coordinators and experienced implementers. So I'm wondering, now that you listen to it, do you think there's some important or successful elements that you, now that you heard them, you thought, oh, I maybe need to pick this up for our project or for my city?
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. So my name is João Formiga. I'm currently working at EDP New, this R&D center focused on shaping the energy transition in several domains. I come from Positive Project, as you just mentioned. I'm Evora site manager. So this is a project that started in October 2019, and which the main distinguish vector is in fact that our solutions are tailored to the cultural heritage site. So this is just the context. Just another quick note, which I think is very relevant, is the fact that, well, coming from Evora, Evora is a bit of the Portuguese crown jewel when it comes to cities, because we have the title of World Heritage Site since 1986. But on the other hand, we were also the first city that had the first smart grid infrastructure. So we have this dichotomy on having on one hand the cultural heritage sites to preserve it, and on the other hand to have this smart grid infrastructure. I think this is a good context before I jump into the to the main conclusions I withdraw. So well, I think that part of the things we have just heard, I wish I heard them back in 2019, in October 2019, for sure. But also I had a quick glimpse on the paper, and I want to add just a couple more notes. So the first thing I want to highlight is the joint collaboration between lighthouse cities. That was mentioned by Nathan, and it is very important in my opinion, with my fellow colleague from the other lighthouse city, Alkmaar. This has been very important to to implement an effective project management and site governance, which is very important. And for me, coming from the technical side of the project, one thing that the paper highlighted very well is to bring also the social sciences expertise to this sort of governance, and to include all the stakeholders' expectations. So this is something that is still an hurdle, I must confess, because we are always dealing with partners from academia and technical partners, but also listening from the social science. So this mix is very, very important to take into account. The other thing, which I believe was mentioned by Elizabeth, but also by Lisa, is the regulatory framework. Okay, and for instance, I believe that the projects will benefit also collaborating experiences in terms of legal framework. I will just point out an example. We are currently now dealing with renewable energy communities here in Portugal, a brand new legislation. Okay, and we are learning from other countries how can we implement pilot projects, and I believe that the foster collaboration between all of these lighthouse projects will benefit in establishing new legal framework. Okay, and just other two things I would like to highlight. Sorry if I'm taking too long, but I believe this is very important from our side, is the city urban platform as something that is very oriented for being informative for the cities, but also to provide an overarching tool for the city, for the municipality to plan the urban development. And the other thing is that these urban data platforms should be open data, should have standardized data policy, which is, in our specific case, very important to stimulate local startups to create solutions for the stakeholders that we have in the project. Yeah, these are the most relevant things I see at this stage.
Thank you so much, Joao, and also thank you for taking such an in-depth look into the learnings and how you can take them further. And I understand that, of course, having known some of the things earlier would have maybe made a difference, but now you know them, so you still have some years to, of course, work on them. So thank you so much for that newcomer's perspective on what we heard. Just to round off the session, I would like to now ask Veronica Cherna to join me here, because we've heard a lot about how important collaboration is, and that it can make things progress smoother and faster, and learn things together. Veronica, I'm wondering, I think there are some other collaboration tools and opportunities that we could advise our projects towards. What would these be?
Hi, my name is Veronica Surna. I'm from the project Scale. It seems like I'm not able to make the camera run, but maybe I can run my presentation instead, so that you don't have to actually look at my face, but you can actually look at the nice pictures that we have produced. We are from the support action of all of the Smart Cities projects that you have heard of today. The support action is called SCALE, and you have heard a lot about how collaboration is very important for replication today, and we are there to really emphasize that even more, because you have heard today from 7 projects, but there is a lot more of them. There is actually 18 projects in the whole family of the smart cities and communities, and there is more than 127 cities that are actually joined in this collaboration, and the exchange of knowledge, the exchange of experience, and the exchange of any kind of best practice. And we've heard many times that we should not only talk about best practice, but also the bad practice, and the kind of the issues that some of them have encountered is absolutely paramount for the development of the project and for all the learning that is happening within. This session is one of the things that we are organizing for the learnings of the project, and the joint papers are a couple of outcomes that are stemming out of the project, but the exchange of knowledge is actually running throughout the whole support action, and so we're going to be doing a lot more with the project there. As soon as we are going to publish the famous paper that you have heard also quite a lot about today, you will be able to hear a lot more from the project. You will be able to hear from all the 18, and they are going to be able to actually give you a lot more insight. We are going to focus on the 1st and 2nd of July during the event in Lyon on the experiences of the 4 projects, and we are going to look at a lot more on the topical insights of each one of the cities. So yeah.
So much, Veronica, for sharing that, and also for teasing us even a little bit more on the publication of the paper, and of course the very interesting event in Lyon in the beginning of July. It's now my honor to thank all of you, the speakers, for some really, really interesting contributions, and also for this cross-learning, this intergenerational learning between projects, and to highlight the points that you would like to share with others. I thank you so much for this very interactive session. I think we could have talked for hours longer about that, but the hour that we had allocated, we used it wisely, and I think we shared quite some insights and views. So thank you so much. I invite you to go back to the live stream. You can do that by leaving the session, top right button that you have on your screen, and then we see each other in the live stream to look into what's going to come up next tomorrow. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the day.